This is Get Sellers Calling You, and I'm Beatty Carmichael. Learn more at our website at getsellerscallingyou.com.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to this next episode of Get Sellers Calling You. We're so excited that you're here. I'm joined again with Beatty Carmichael. Beatty is the CEO of Master Grabber and the creator of Agent Dominator. He's one of the top marketing experts in the real estate field. And Beatty, I'm super excited that you're joining me today. A little bit different venue for us, but what do you have for our listeners today?
Yeah, so this is a little bit different. If you'll pardon me while I remember to turn my phone off so it doesn't ring over there. This is actually a Zoom meeting. So for those of you who are listening strictly online, then if you want to actually see what we're doing, see what Penny looks like, because most people have seen me but probably never seen Penny, you can watch this podcast online. But the most important part is we're going to be doing a training session on how to dominate a geographic farm, basically what we'll call geographic farming mastery. And this is the basics of getting into it. Everything on how do you market to it at a high level, what are the things that causes it to drive results, all the way down to how do you pick a farm that gets you even more results. So this whole call and talk is to really take someone who's thinking about geographic farming or maybe haven't thought about it at all and say, here's how you do it and let's make it work well.
Great. Oh, I'm excited. This will be good. This is going to be a really good topic for our listeners.
Yes. So I was doing a call recently, Penny, and doing actually this very same workshop. And it was real interesting because there were a lot of really high income earning real estate agents on that call. And the couple of comments that came out of it was, where were you 4 years ago? You know, as we start to explain, here's how you do marketing, okay? And then as I started to explain how do you pick out a farm, it's like all these light bulbs started to go on because most people have never really understood the art of farming, and it's really not an art, it's a science.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd walk us through it today. So you
that's
ready?
great. Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, the joys of technology, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, can you see my screen okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, this is blocking Agent Dominator logo right there, but we'll move this around. Okay, so let's get started. So what I want to do is, by the way, for y'all who don't know, this is actually Penny just a couple years ago before she had her hair dyed. I'm teasing. Okay, so how do you dominate the geographic farm? I want to first talk about how do you market for listings, because whether it is in a geographic farm or whether it's in your personal list or whether it's a expired list or whether it's any type of list, what you find is people respond the same. And so I want to walk you through just at a high level marketing for listings. And because of that, I want to talk about beer. Penny, have you ever heard of Schlitz beer?
I have.
Yeah. I was asking someone recently, just a couple of months ago, about that, and they never had. They were a young, more millennial type person, and so Pabst Blue Ribbon bought Schlitz. I think it was in the 90s.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
And so that's why the name went out.
I recognize it. I think it's a Yankee beer. I was actually born in Massachusetts, so I recognize it as being one that was popular.
Yes, very much so. So it is sort of a Yankee beer. Milwaukee, Wisconsin was their home office area. And now here's the big question, Penny. What in the world does beer have to do with getting listings?
Oh, I don't know. You're going to have to tell me that one.
Well, you invite some friends over, you pop open a beer, and you have a good time, and you build relationships. Is that it?
Maybe. That would be my easy guess.
That's your easy guess. Well, that's a wrong answer, if that was the actual answer. So beer has a lot to do with it, not just all beer, but in particular Schlitz beer. So Schlitz is in Milwaukee.
Mm.
Used to be called the Milwaukee Brewing Company, is what
Mm.
one of the commercial agents up in Milwaukee told me. And what's really interesting is at the turn of the century, and for our millennial friends, no, that's not the
Mm.
turn of 2000. This is the turn of 1900. Okay, um, but at the turn of the 1900s, Schlitz beer was number 8 in the nation. Number
Wow.
1 was Budweiser. Okay,
Mm.
oops, wrong slide. Number 1 was Budweiser. And do you have any idea the difference between number 1 and number 8 when you're talking about market share?
I don't.
Okay, so just a real quick business lesson. Number 1 and number 2 control the vast majority of the market. So in any place, if you have number 1 and number 2, they typically own and control 85, 90, 95% of the market.
Wow. Okay.
Then number 3 is way down from there. Number 4 is even further down. And by the time you get down to number 8, you're a nobody. Here's probably a
Wow.
good way to kind of understand this. If you were to look at a geographic farm, for example, a large farm where maybe there are some really strong agents, and you got to look at a farm where you got some really strong agents where they pretty much are dominating the market. You'll
Mm-hmm.
find that the number 1 agent, if they dominate the market, is probably like 50%. Okay, I mean, I'm
Wow.
talking about a
Okay.
strong agent. And then number 2 from there is probably going to be down at 15%. By the time you get to number 1 or number 8, that person probably has maybe 1 listing a year in that farm. So what we're talking about is a huge disparity.
Sure. Okay.
And Schlitz wanted to grow. So they hired a guy named Claude Hopkins. Now, the name probably doesn't ring a bell, but let me ask you a question. Let's talk about income for a moment, Penny.
Okay.
If if you were earning $185,000 a year today, is that a lot of money?
Today, yeah, I would consider that to be a pretty good income.
Yeah, $185,000 is more than most real estate agents make. Okay,
Yeah.
take home pay. Okay, so now let's go back 110 years ago.
Mm.
If you were earning
Mm.
$185,000 in 1910, would that be a big income?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what this guy's salary was,
Wow.
$185,000 a year. And the only thing he did is he wrote marketing copy to get people to buy his client's brand.
Mm.
So Schlitzbeer hired Claude Hopkins. I wanted you to see this story because what he did with Schlitz is the same thing that if you do in your geographic farm or anywhere else, you're going to quickly dominate that area. Okay,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
so what Claude did is the first thing he did. By the way, let me also walk you through just a few more years. The Great Depression, 1930, 1931, 1933,
Mm-hmm.
in that time frame, a lot of people were unemployed, right?
Yes.
A
Yeah.
lot of businesses out of business, and a lot of incomes had dropped a lot because there's a lot of the market was gone. So, would you like to take a guess of what Claude Hopkins' salary was in the early 1930s during the peak of the Depression?
Wow. Okay, so is this before the 185 a year salary or after?
This is after. So 185 was actually 1907,
Okay.
okay, when he was just getting started in marketing, okay, essentially. And then you fast forward, you have the stock market crash, the Great Depression, and everyone's out of work, a lot of people.
Hmm.
And he's still doing marketing copy. Would you like to guess what his salary was at that point?
I'm gonna guess it was higher. I'm gonna
Okay,
guess it was higher than 185.
okay, good guess. Now the question is, at what level?
Oh, um, gosh, can I give you a percentage?
Sure, Give me a
Okay,
percentage.
I'm gonna go with 25. I mean, Great Depression, 25-30% higher.
Okay, so 25-30% would put him about $250,000. His
Yeah.
salary was over $1 million a year during
What?
the Great Depression.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the reason I want to share that is I want you to understand that what he did with Schlitz
Hmm.
was so effective that when he did it with every single other company, companies you would never have heard of, like Palmolive,
Hmm.
or what are those beans that come in a can? Do you remember?
Uh, like cannellini beans,
Yeah, they're
garbanzo beans.
anyway, Dove soap, okay, Palmolive, all of these brands that we have today, he was the guy that launched them.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow.
um, so what happened with Claude is the first thing he did is he went through the Schlitz Brewery and took a tour, and they showed him everything that happened through the process of making beer. Because if you're going to market beer, you got to kind of understand the process. So they
Sure.
started with the fact that they have several 4,000 foot deep wells. Okay, that's almost a mile deep. They had several of those where they pumped up the very purest of the pure water that they could get so that the beer was pure. Now, let me also share one other thing. Back in this time frame, all the beers were promoting we have purity in our beer. Our beers are pure. But the question is, how do you define pure?
Yeah.
See, most of our agents out there are saying, I'm a great agent. But the question is, how do you define a great
Yeah.
agent?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Everyone's using the same verbiage,
Sure.
but no one knows how to define it. And unless you can define it, then you can't really sell it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so they showed him how they have these several 4,000 foot wells to bring up only the purest of the pure water. Then they take it through this process, and then when they're cooling the beer down, they have these huge plate glass windows that are protecting the cooling area from everything else, and they use only filtered air so that there's no impurities to come involved. Then they showed him how they take their beer bottles and they clean them, not only once or twice, but 4 times with
Wow.
superheated steam to make sure all of the bacteria is gone so that there could be nothing that would spoil the purity of the taste.
Mm.
Then they also showed him in their laboratory the mother yeast cell, that they went through 1,018 different experiments developing this mother yeast cell to have the purest of the taste, and all of the yeast that the beer is made from comes from that mother yeast cell.
Wow.
Then they also showed that the filters that they use to filter out the beer from all of the barley and everything else and clean it are made from a very expensive white oak. I believe I've got my story right. White oak that they had to clean 2 or 3 times a day to keep it really pure. Okay.
Wow.
Then they would store the beer in a cask, and the casks were made out of very special wood that were aged before they would put the beer in there. And so all of these very deliberate, very elaborate steps so that when the beer comes out on the other end, it's extremely pure to the standards of Schlitz beer. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yes.
Okay,
That's
so now as I'm describing this, you're going, wow. And as I'm watching your expression, you're going, wow. Okay.
I'm just like, it's so much. I mean, it was like step after step. It's like I just kept expecting you to be like finished, and then it was like one more thing.
Yeah, yes. Well, now I truncated it as well. There are a lot more steps, but those are the
Yeah.
key things. So
Wow.
when Claude finished coming through the tour, his reaction was just like yours and mine. My gosh, this is amazing. You do
Mhm.
all of this just to make it pure. And
Yeah.
then he asked the question, why don't you tell the public about this?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
do you have any idea what the Schlitz beer guys said when he asked that question?
They probably thought he was a fool.
No, he said, well, almost. They said, well, Claude, This is how all beer is made. We don't do anything different. We don't do anything unique. And then Claude came back, and this is the problem, okay? And this is also the problem with a lot of real estate agents. Well, Beatty, all good real estate agents do these best practices. And from your perspective as the real estate agent, you don't do anything special. But what Claude understood that the beer guys did not understand is that the public did not understand that, okay? And he said whoever educates the public first is going to own that market share.
Yeah.
It's going to own that, what we call positioning in the mind. Now, let's talk about positioning real quick, because this is real important. Okay, so positioning is a marketing term. If you've ever read the book Millionaire Real Estate Agent, have you ever read that by chance? I know. Okay, because I know you guys have been in do things with real estate as well. So Millionaire Real Estate Agent talks about a concept called market share dominance. He actually pulls that the concept of that from a book called Positioning by Al Ries and a guy named Trent. And that book was written in the 1980s. It's a fabulous read if you are excited about marketing. But it basically says this, that the typical consumer can only remember 2 or maybe 3 brands and nothing else.
Wow.
Okay? So let's do a quick test. Can we test this out on you?
Yes, but I'm probably not the one you want to test. I'm really good at brands.
Okay, good. So you're the good one to test. I want you to think about toothpaste, for example.
Okay.
All right. Tell me the brands of toothpaste that come to mind.
Crest, Colgate, Aquafresh. It's red and white. Hold on.
Okay, you can stop there.
Okay.
3 came to mind instantly.
Yes.
Most people, when I asked, only 2 come to mind, but you had a real bad time trying to figure out that 4th one that you could picture, but you couldn't come with a name.
Yes.
How many toothpaste brands do you think are on the market?
Oh my word. It's got to be well over 25.
Oh, it's in the thousands. Okay.
What?
Yeah. Okay. So at least in the multiple hundreds. But here's what happens. As a consumer, with all of these brands, you only quickly come up with 3.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think's happening in that geographic farm? When you ask a homeowner, give me the name of every real estate agent you think of. 1, 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, maybe.
If you're not one of those names, you have 0 chance of getting a phone call when they're thinking about selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So this is what is so important about this whole idea of marketing for listings is it's all about how do you get your name in that consumer's mind so that they think of you first. And that was the challenge that Schlitz Beer was having. They were number 8 for a reason. No one thought of them, okay?
Yeah.
So what Claude did is he starts writing copy. Here's an example called Bottled Purity. And they always have these, by the way, he did a thing on orange juice later I saw. And it says, drink oranges from a bottle. Okay, this, keep in mind, back in that time, there was no orange juice you'd buy off the shelf. You'd always squeeze it.
Squeeze it yourself.
So these headlines create an immense curiosity, bottled purity. And then what he starts to do is he starts to, on the ad, he starts to explain these things that Schlitz Beer did to bring purity to their beer. He talked about the 4,000-foot wells. He talked about the white oak filters. He talked about the plate glass room with only filtered air. He talked about all of these things. And would you like to guess what happened?
He started making more money.
Well, okay, let's talk about Schlitz Beer. Would you like to guess what happened with Schlitz Beer? I
probably could not guess, so I'm going to let you tell me.
Okay. You're afraid to guess is what's going on.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So what happened is in less than 1 year, they jumped nationally to the #1 selling beer.
Wow. Oh my word. Wow.
Think about the impact. from a
Mm.
nobody to number one in less than a year, leapfrogging over Budweiser.
Wow.
How do you do that? You do that by giving people an understanding of what pure beer is all about. And then I'm going through this book written. So there's a real famous uh, 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 I forget the marketing street, but up in New York, there's a very famous advertising agency called Lord and Thomas, and they were the ones that brought out all of these brands. And Claude worked for and was president of Lord and Thomas during the years of the Great Depression. It's my understanding, but I know he worked there. And the owner of Lord and Thomas was talking about he's on a train. Okay, you got to go back to the early 1900s. There
Hmm.
were no interstates. Okay,
Yeah.
and so if you want to go from city to city, you hopped on a train. So the owner of Lord and Thomas was on a train with his, I guess it was a priest or a pastor, depending on the denomination. But this guy had never had any beer in his life. Kind of stayed away from alcohol. And
Mm.
on the train, they're
Huh?
riding along and reading the newspaper, and he's reading another ad for Schlitz beer, and
Mm.
talking about the purity and the pure taste and the crispness of the taste.
Mm.
And he said to, and I wish I remember the guy's name, but the owner of Lord and Thomas, he said, I've been reading about this Schlitz beer so much, I just got to go get it. I just got to go try it. So he gets up and goes buys his first beer. Okay, that's how effective Claude Hopkins was in writing marketing copy about a beer that
Wow.
would persuade homeowners to choose that beer over every other beer out there. Uh, Now, can you start to see some similarities maybe with what's going on there with what you can be doing with your real estate business?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So what comes to mind? Anything?
Um,
Either strategic high level or maybe even specific granular level?
Strategic high level, I would just be something like you said earlier, something that's going to set you apart, but really draw the attention of the person that you're trying to market to. Clearly, his copy at this time was drawing the attention of readers and people that were looking through the paper and so forth, and it was intriguing to them. Maybe it was something that had not been done prior to this, to really, like you said, describe the process of the beer and the way the beer tastes and all that. Instead of just putting a picture with, Budweiser across it, he's actually giving some information on the beer. And so people were inquisitive. That's kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly. So now if we were to relate this to real estate, what do most real estate agents do? In fact,
I'm
let me ask you this question. Let me ask the question this way.
going to get a lot of agents to hate me if I give that answer.
Yeah, so let me ask you, so let me ask a more politically correct question, okay?
Okay.
If you were to get 10 postcards from 10 real estate agents, as a consumer, is there typically anything on those postcards that would persuade you why to choose one agent over another?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Hmm.
Therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
All real estate agents do what all real estate agents do because that's what they're taught to do. There's a
Yeah.
great book. I don't know if you've ever read it, called Rhinoceros Success
I have
by
not.
J. something Alexander. So Rhinoceros Success, great book. I highly recommend it. It's a short read, just a couple hours or less. And but it talks about how do you really beat the crowd. And
Mm.
it's one of the main truisms there is anytime you see the crowd going one way, you always go the other way. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is especially true with real estate. Anytime you see all real estate agents doing this same type of practice, do something different.
Hmm.
If they're all sending out these cars that all look alikes, do something different because otherwise you run into the same problem that Schlitz did. So let me show you what's going on. You're listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. To increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence or from a geographic farm, learn about Agent Dominator. We guarantee your sales in writing or give your money back. To learn more, visit our website at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator from the menu. And now, back to the podcast.
Hey, Beatty, a quick note on that. I have to solidify that point. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, we got something very different in the mail from a real estate agent, way different than any other agents had done. And if I had been in the market to buy a home at that point, I would have called that agent immediately because it was something that no one else had been doing. It totally caught my attention and I actually liked it.
Yes.
So anyway.
Stand out from the crowd.
Yes,
okay?
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, so if you can see this, if you're watching the video, all of these people look the same. It's just silhouettes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to differentiate. But in marketing, this is really the issue. In marketing, there's a concept known as outside perception versus inside reality. And this is the same thing that Schlitzbeer was running into, and the same thing that all of our listeners are running into right now. That is, the outside perception of your marketplace assumes you are just like everyone else. Your inside reality is you might be a lot different, but the perception is different. So people question, okay? When you make a sale, do people buy you on perception or on reality?
Reality.
Okay. If they've never used you before, do they have anything to buy on reality with?
No.
So they have to buy on perception.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a trick question, because if you've done business with someone before, or they've done business with you, let's say you're a real estate agent, they've done business with you before, then if you're a good agent, they liked you, you did a great job, they're going to use you again and again because they now know your reality. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But if they've never used you before, then what they're doing is they're hiring you based on perception.
Mm-hmm.
So perception is the key to engaging that first relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to tell you a story. One of our clients with Agent Dominator signed up with us. She put her past clients and friends on our list to market. And, we have a money back guarantee that you'll get X results or we'll give all your money back. Okay. Yeah. And, but one of the keys to that guarantee is that there has to be at least enough selling activity within your list that we can guarantee something. Mm-hmm. Sort of like Jesus, he never created something out of nothing. He always took the little that you have and then produced the abundance. Yes. 5 loaves and 2 fish to feed 5,000, but he didn't just start with nothing. Yeah. And we can't create something out of nothing either. So this agent's name, I forget it. I was just going to use first name, but anyway, she came to us at the end of the year. She didn't get any sales, so she complained. She said, "I want my money back." And so we go through our process, and one of the questions asked was, how many listings actually came out of that list, whether you got them or not. And there was only one. So, well, that doesn't meet the threshold, okay? Because in the contract it says that it's got to be X. But here's and I'm going somewhere with this, okay? This person that listed their home was a recent past client of this agent, and chose someone else.
Wow.
Okay, so that shows you how bad that agent was. Okay, yeah. So that homeowner chose the agent initially on perception, but reality was not good enough to repeat.
Wow.
Okay, yeah. So typically your business comes from reality if it's repeat, and it's coming from perception if it's not. So yeah. This is the challenge that Schlitz Beer had. The outside perception of all of the beer drinkers was that Schlitz was just another beer. Mm-hmm. And the inside reality, the perception, is that when Claude started to explain step by step those things that they did, then the public's perception of Schlitz beer increased, and now they started buying it. This is the same thing with real estate agents. So let me ask you a question. Assume for a moment, Penny, that you are you're one of our clients, okay? Assume that maybe you've been selling real estate for 15 or 20 years. You do 30 to 50 transactions a year. You do an excellent job for your clients, okay? And now you want to do geographic farming. And you go to this farm, and they've seen your signs, over the years. You might even do some advertising, and you're in the grocery store and things of that sort, okay? So here's the question. By and large, to those homeowners, um, uh, uh, do they believe that you are any different or any better than any of the other agents?
No.
No. See,
Mm-mm.
here's what happens. The homeowner's perception is that all agents are the same, that
Yeah.
all they do is stick a sign in the yard, right?
Yeah.
List the
Yeah.
home in the MLS, and just sit back and wait for
Yeah.
someone to bring a buyer. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if they believe that to be true, then it makes no difference which agent they choose,
Mm-hmm.
because their home's going to sell for the same price in the same amount of time. Is this making sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now put yourself back in that top producer's corner. And let me ask you this question.
Okay.
If those homeowners out there understood the skill, the expertise, and the experience that you bring to the table for your clients, and they understood that skill, expertise, and experience to the same degree that you understand it about yourself, would they realistically choose any other agent besides you?
No.
No. So that is your inside reality now becoming their perception of who you are.
Yes. Yeah.
If you can make their perception become your reality, then they would choose you every time.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're not choosing you every time is because their perception is different. And to the degree that your reality is different than their perception is to the degree of how few listings you'll get from that market. Are these
Yeah.
making sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So then the
Absolutely.
question is, how in the world do you take your inside reality and help them understand your reality? What do you think? How do you do that?
Well, I hear my grandmother say, the proof is in the pudding. So there's got
Yes,
to be something that I'm going to be doing that will prove to them that that perception is a reality.
very good. So we got to somehow communicate it. So this is what Claude did. He went through and analyzed each step of the process of making excellent beer. And then he wrote marketing copy that educated the consumer on each of those steps. It
Hmm.
wasn't flamboyant marketing copy. It wasn't, uh, flowery language. It was, here's what we do. And
Yeah.
it's so impressive just by itself that people go, wow, that's a lot of effort. This
Mm-hmm.
beer must be really great. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we started working on this back in 2013. We started analyzing what causes someone to change their perception about a real estate agent. And
Hmm.
what we found was a real simple thing. If you want to make your inside reality become their outside perception of who you are, then it really boils down to three things. And we call them the three S's, okay? And I want to kind of walk through these, but the three S's very simply are, you have to show off your sales, you have to explain the secrets to those sales, and then you have to have some sort of a unique selling proposition, or some unique service that you do that gets them to remember you. And I think we probably ought to just end the podcast right now. We'll come back in a few weeks and finish this up. What do you think?
No.
Oh, okay. So I've also got to tell you this other story. Okay. Um,
Okay.
so showing off your sales, we found this was the number one thing, most important. In fact, back in 2012 and then 2013, when we just started working exclusively with real estate agents, I don't know if you know this or not, Penny, but our focus at that time was exclusively geographic farming.
Mm.
And let me back up and share the conundrum with geographic farming. I think the easiest way to explain it, and do you know what conundrum means?
uh, pitfall.
Pitfall, problem. I think it's a real word. It may just be made up. I'm not really
No,
sure.
I think it's real. I think
Okay.
it's real.
So the conundrum, okay, in geographic farming is best described by what Mike Ferry said. Now, let's test your um, uh, knowledge again. Do you know who Mike Ferry is?
I do recognize that name.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he was an agent. I don't know if he was.
I think he was an agent, but his claim to fame is he has the largest, longest, most successful real estate coaching organization in the world called the Ferry Coaching Organization or Ferry Organization or something like that. If you go to the website, and I haven't been there in a couple of years, but real prominently it says over 1 million individual hours of coaching conducted.
Wow.
That's a lot
Okay.
of time.
That is a lot of time.
A lot of people have heard of Tom Ferry, which is his son. Okay, so you have that connection. But Mike Ferry was asked about postcard marketing, geographic farming, and his comment was, if you're going to do postcard marketing, and I'm assuming this is meaning for that geographic farm, so you have to do nonstop marketing for at least 2 or 3 years before you can expect the homeowner to actually remember your name. That's
Wow.
that mind share dominance.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and call you. Okay, so the conundrum in real estate and geographic farming is it takes time, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the thinking of those homeowners. We're trying to get their perception that you are not just any other agent, but you are a special agent worthy of being, selling their house. So when we enter this market, the common belief was if you're going to do geographic farming, you market, 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 and your first listing will come maybe by the end of the first year, and definitely somewhere more than likely by the second year. And then it would take somewhere between 3 to 5 years before you had a lot of volume coming in and you just kind of had a good foothold on that marketplace.
Yeah.
So and if you think about even launching a new brand, it takes a long time to get that brand launched. And so that's basically what geographic farming is. It's launching your brand.
Gotcha.
So when we started geographic farming, would you like to guess how long it took for our average client to get their first listing?
Ooh, 2 months.
Pretty accurate. Somewhere in that 1, 2, 3 month time frame.
Nice.
We had most of our clients getting their first listings there. We had a number of clients pick up, sell a couple of $1 million in real estate in their first several months, and a number of clients would actually be maybe a few in the first several months that quickly. But we had a number of clients that would earn $75,000 to $100,000 in commissions in their first 12 months in geographic farming, which is totally unheard of.
Yeah.
And that process has nothing to do with what I'm sharing here. Okay, I'm going to show you that process in just a moment, but they all can interconnect together. So back to this. So as we're signing up real estate agents, we would always ask them, have you ever done geographic farming before? And most of them would say no, some would say yes. We would then ask those who said yes, was it successful? And most would say no, and some would say yes. And we would ask them, those that said it was successful, well, what were you doing that made it successful? 100% of everyone who answered that question gave the same answer. And would you like to guess what 100% of the agents who had success in geographic farming in the past, what was the one answer that they gave? Would you like to guess?
My guess, and this is just based on my own personal experience, they were available.
Well, most agents are available because most agents don't have enough business to begin with.
I don't know about that.
So look at the slide. It's number 1 of the 3 S's.
Oh, they showed off their sale.
Yeah, and how do you show off a sale if you're a real estate agent?
Signage, marketing.
Yeah, you mail out a just sold postcard.
Yeah.
Okay, you show off your sale. Okay, and that's what they were doing. And that's the number 1 most important thing. Here's what I learned from that. Homeowners want to know that you're actively selling.
Hmm.
Think about this. If you're going to sell your home, do you want to sell it with an agent who rarely sells homes or one that is always selling homes?
One that's always selling homes.
Yeah. So the one who never advertises that they're always selling, the perception is I never see them. So they
Yeah.
must not be selling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you see them, then maybe they're selling. So that's the number one thing. So the three S's, the number one is show off your sales all the time. And here's something real interesting about geographic farming. We will definitely have to break on this call. So I want to take us to the end of this, but we'll break and
Okay.
come back another time because I want to show you how to start implementing and executing on this.
Okay.
But I'll stop on this topic, and we won't get into the other stuff. But uh, where was I going? Oh, on showing off your sales. So
Yeah.
most agents believe wrongly that you only send just sold postcards around the sale that you just sold.
Mm.
So if I'm doing a geographic farm over here, let's just call it, Cahaba Heights as my geographic farm, then if I make a sale over in Hoover, I can't show that sale off in Cahaba Heights because Cahaba Heights, they want to see sales that are in their neighborhood. So I can't start showing off sales in that neighborhood until I start getting sales. And so now I'm at the catch 22. If I don't have sales, I can't show them off. And I don't show them off, I don't get sales. You see
Yeah.
that problem?
Yes.
So the simple solution is those homeowners don't care. They just
Yeah.
want to know that you're selling.
That's
So if you
absolutely.
got a sale from another area, send a just sold postcard into that farm that you're targeting because any sale is better than no sale.
Yeah.
Now
I would
here,
agree with that
yeah,
100%. I mean, as a consumer, I would be thrilled to see an agent that's selling all over the city because to me, that would be a sign that they can sell no matter where you are.
that's right, exactly. But now there are some, so the closer you get to home, the more that homeowner is going to trust you. Meaning,
Mm.
if you sold their next door neighbor's home and 3 doors down you sold that home and one street over you sold another home, do you think they'll trust you more than if all your homes are 20 miles away?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So proximity does make an impact. And that's why most agents say, well, I need to sell homes here for them to trust me.
Sure.
So I've got a solution. Would you like to know what that solution is?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's go back and let's first articulate the conundrum, okay? Because these are always conundrum problems we're trying to solve. Okay, so the conundrum is when I sell a home that's 20 miles away, it may have a completely different architectural style than the homes in the neighborhood I want to target. So it
Yeah.
becomes obvious that where I sold is nowhere near where they are. Okay, makes sense?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. The other conundrum is, let's say in Cahaba Heights, all the streets are names like Rosemary Lane and Jackson Boulevard. But where I just sold a whole home, it's all numeric names like 24th Street
Mm.
or First Avenue South.
Mm-hmm.
So when I show off that sale into this geographic neighborhood, it's very obvious. It sticks out like a sore thumb. This has nothing to do with where I live.
Mm. Yeah.
Is that making sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you solve this problem? Now we do this on our postcards that we fully customize for our agents. When we go through this whole process, we become the Claude Hopkins for them, and identify what it is they do, and we create custom postcards, and we include sales. We do it on their postcards. Any idea what that is?
Just putting the name of the street.
That's part of it. Goes a little
Uh,
bit deeper.
and then maybe stating like how many days they sold it and if it's sold for 5,000 over price
That's
or
part of it. Okay.
full price.
Yeah. So let me. I'm going to peel back the onion. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to as some description. I may open the kimono. Okay, and let you see what's actually on the inside of what goes on with all this stuff.
Okay.
So the first thing is the outside architecture of the home is usually the first indication that that home doesn't fit this neighborhood.
Hmm.
But once you go inside the home, that kitchen, that
Mm-hmm.
master bedroom, that master bath, the den, the living area, you can't tell what type home the outside architecture is simply by looking at an inside photo. So if you
Yeah.
want to take that sale and make it transferable to another neighborhood, when the outside doesn't look the same,
Hmm.
take an inside photo.
An
And
interior.
then that homeowner can't discern if it was they think it's a neighborhood sale because you sent it to them in that neighborhood. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's brilliant.
So that's why we do that. It also helps in some other areas. The other thing that we do is, now this comes into a higher level of marketing understanding. Okay, so let me explain. Um,
Okay.
let's first talk about fonts. We have normal font, which is black print on white copy, on white background, and we have reverse font, which is white print on a dark background.
Mm-hmm.
Which font do you think is easier to read, normal font or reverse font?
Normal.
That's right. It's 8.5 times easier to read normal font than it is reverse font. Most people don't read reverse font. What about if you look at all caps, or let's say upper and lower case versus all caps? Which is easier to read? If you have a sentence in upper and lower case
Mm-hmm.
versus a sentence in all caps, which is easier to read?
Upper and lower, just because it's more natural.
That's right, more natural. And then italics, non-italics or italics. If everything was in non-italics or everything was in italics, which is easier?
Non.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want them to pay attention to the street,
Hmm.
you do it in normal font, upper and lower case, non-italics.
Yeah.
But if you want them to not pay attention to the street, so don't even hit their brain, because you kind of feel obligated, you need to let them know where the sale was.
Sure.
Then you put it in reverse font, all caps, italics.
Ah.
And then that way it's there, but that homeowner, it doesn't register in the brain. So
Hmm.
now you can take a cell from 20 miles away, if we use that example.
Yeah.
You can show just the inside photo. And then for the street, you put it in smaller font, you put it in reverse font, all caps, italics. And so now it satisfies the curiosity. Okay, they posted what address, but it doesn't even register, well, this
Yeah.
isn't a house near here.
Yeah.
It just goes right by them. So now you can use sales from anywhere and show off sales in that farm, and now you have success. Isn't
That's
that cool?
great. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. So we're going to have to stop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But let me tell you where we're going, just to whet your appetite to want to come back, is we haven't gotten into how do you start to execute on it. So we're going to talk a little bit further on the next session. Now that's just showing off sales. We're going to start talking about what are the secrets that you start to explain. What are the things that the Claude Hopkins approach to get people to actually trust you?
yeah.
To know that your beer is pure or your
Yeah.
real estate is excellent.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how do you create a unique selling proposition, what it is, and then how do you start to execute on it. And then later in the session, in the series, we're going to then talk about how do you start to identify sellers. What did we do with our clients that got them listings faster than ever before, when the general norm was it was going to take a year or two to get listings, and our clients were getting them in the first month or two. How do you
Yeah.
do that? And then we're going to move further down into this mastery course and talk about how do you actually pick a farm,
Hmm.
because you can't just say eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You point to that area and say, that's where we're going to farm, because it may not be productive. There are
That's right.
things that you can do. So that's kind of where we're going in this tease it up. Has this been exciting so far?
Oh, this has been great. And I just want to encourage our listeners, if they want to get all those juicy details and learn how to be successful, to please join us again for the next one so they can get the rest of the story. Beatty, thank you so much for, again, just putting all the effort into really trying to make people better. And make them successful. And this has been a great podcast. I look forward to the next one so we can finish out our discussion and hear all the good details.
Yes, and let me also make a couple plugs. Number one,
yes,
if you haven't subscribed to our podcast, subscribe to it so you don't miss anything. Number two, I heard a top producing agent who makes like on average about $750,000 a year. Personal production, take-home pay. Okay, almost take-home pay. And he teaches a course, and part of his course, he talks about if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur. Okay, so I'm teaching you what you know, but I'm not teaching you what we know. Okay,
that's right.
So if you want to really master this, if you want to have the highest chance of success, I'd love to have you check us out. You can go either to our podcast website, getsellerscallingyou.com, and click on the tab Agent Dominator. You just go to agentdominator.com and see what we do there. And otherwise, thanks for listening in, and come back next time for more of the rest of the story.
Awesome. Thanks, Beatty, and we look forward to just hanging out again next time.
All right. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it so you never miss another episode, and please like our Get Sellers Calling You Facebook page. Also, if you want to increase sales from past clients and sphere of influence, dominate a geographic farm, or convert home valuation leads, check out our Agent Dominator program. We create custom content that differentiates you from other realtors, then use it to keep you top of mind with your prospects with postcards, targeted Facebook ads, email campaigns, video interviews, and more. And the best part is we guarantee your sales or give all your money back. Learn more at getsellerscallingyou.com and select Agent Dominator in the menu. Thanks for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast. Have a great day.